when you start researching, right, we all know the concept of long tail. But what I wanted to find is I wanted to get some very specific things that we can use to implement best practices, or what I call better practices. I've used the word best practices, and I'm trying not to. I'd like all of us to consider looking at better practices. Best says you're done. You're never done as a marketer. We always have to look at what's better. So what are better practices? Well, 99% of the people agree, and that's a staggering number. 99% of the people say that as their search deepens, their research terms change, right? So that's cool, right? So now we know that they're going and they're researching for different things. Right? Good example. If you look for the term marketing automation, right, you're probably pretty far down the path. We're a brand new marketplace, a brand new industry. If you're adopting marketing automation, it's probably the first time you've ever adopted this technology. Right? So they don't start their searches looking for marketing automation. It's usually, I've got an email marketing problem. Let me give you a really good concrete example. And this is hilarious because she just sent me a text like 10 minutes ago asking if my software could do this. I was at a wedding last Sunday, and this is a friend of mine's sister, and she's a B2B marketer in Atlanta. And we're sitting down, and she's an exact target customer. And she says, wow, she goes, I've got this. She goes, I want to really get into great segmentation. She goes, I want to be able to dynamically segment. And I was like, and she goes, an exact target just doesn't do it for me. I was like, whoa, whoa, whoa. I was like, this thing can segment like insane amounts. It's like this, it's tied to the most powerful computer in the world. It actually is, IBM's computer. You can get that as like a super upgrade. But anyways, so I was like, I think that segmentation is not what she's talking about. I was like, so what are you talking about? I was like, what do you want to do with this data? She's like, well, I want to have when somebody opts out or when somebody does something, something else kick off. And I want to be able to understand those people. And I was like, it's kind of marketing automation. You should look at Pardot. She goes, no, I just need better segmentation. I was like, okay. I was like, I think I could probably make a good suggestion for you as to like what kind of tool you might be needing. She's like, I just need better segmentation. Right? She's a B2B marketer. And she doesn't even understand the word marketing automation. She still thinks she has a segmentation problem as opposed to looking for marketing automation. So if she starts searching online, what's she going to search for? She's going to start searching for segmentation, how to fix segmentation, how to do segmentation better. And as her search deepens, she's going to find out about marketing automation. But what does this tell us? It tells us that there are different life cycles, right? There's a life cycle. We understand this. But let's put this into something that's usable, that we can actually go back home and do. So the next question I asked everybody is, well, if you have this life cycle, how many times do you go back and engage during this life cycle? And they said I go back and research 2 to 3 times. Key words here, research, right? Not daily engagement. When they're in a research cycle, and I'll break that down in a second, but 2 to 3 times. So it's pretty neat, right? So now we understand that there's a research cycle where people go and they engage, they stop, they go back and engage with different search terms, they stop. And we can put this in practice and understand there's stage-based marketing. We need to stop thinking about, I'm going to take a person that filled out this form and downloaded this white paper, and I'm going to convert them to a lead through one nurturing program. People don't operate that way. They just said they go back 2 to 3 times. Right? So we need to understand that if they're going to go back 2 to 3 times, we need to have 2 to 3 different programs that move them from stage to stage to stage. Right? So the new best practice is stage-based marketing. It's making sure everything is tailored to that stage. Why? Because if she searches for segmentation and I pop an advertisement up for marketing automation best practices, is that going to be relevant to her? You can shake your head no if you like. No, it's not, right? It's not going to be relevant to her because she's somewhere in stage 1, and if you guys can't see the blue, that's my fault. It probably doesn't show up really well on the screen, but it says 1, 2, and 3. Right, she's probably somewhere in stage 1, and I'm advertising content that's relevant to somebody in stage 3. So by understanding better her and understanding better where my stages are, I have an increase in engagement by making those things relevant, right? So best practice, make sure your keywords map your stages. Well, how do you go find those stages? The most underutilized tool in the marketing department, anybody want to guess? And raise your hand. No, it's a telephone. It's a whole lot more basic. A telephone. You can pick up a telephone. You've got an entire database of people that have bought your software, not bought your software, and recently downloaded your pieces of content. Have you ever called them to ask them what they thought about it? You ever called them to say, did that help you? What did you find helpful with that piece of content, right? If you let sales do all the calling, that's why people hate sales calls, right? Be a marketer. Pick up the telephone and ask somebody. Do some research on your own content. And you're going to find some really fascinating things. You're going to find what keywords should be in stage 1. You're going to find what keywords should be in stage 2. And people are just going to tell you. You know why? Because no marketer's ever called them and asked them these questions. Am I jumping ahead? All right. Let's go to the next point. The next thing, if you have a really expensive product, it's going to have more stages. So the other question I asked is, does your research increase as the product price increases? And 91% of the people said yes. So if you have a really expensive product, you might have more than 4 or 5 stages. So you need to kind of investigate, ask those people, use that telephone to say, how many times did you go back and research before you finally purchased? And it's going to tell you some really key data. So now I talked about breaking down content into research. So what I did is I asked this question. I had this theory I wanted to prove out with this research. And the theory is around batch, right? So I'm going to poll you really quickly, right? Do you do A or B? Do you do A? Do you go online, download the document, read that document, go back online, get another document, go offline, read that document? Or do you do B? Go online, download like 7 documents all at once, log off, and read them all at the same time. Do you do A or B? B. Did someone say C? I'm not joking. I think someone did. Yeah, so most of you guys said B, right? And then we're talking about this guy shaking his head, so I guess he does A. But anyways, when we're in a research mode, the majority of us tend to do that. We haven't been taught to do that, but Google makes finding information so fast and so easy, we've trained ourselves to do that. Right? It's just an inherent thing we just started doing because it's so fast for us to find content. Right? So now there's a difference to that. We also read content on a daily basis. Right? So the question I had was, and I asked people, I said, do you do A or B? And 56% of the people said they do one, and then 40 whatever percent said they do the other. So it's almost an exact 50-50 split. And what I realized was I asked the wrong question. What I should have asked was, in a research cycle, not just when you engage with content. Because people engage with content in 2 ways. They engage with content when they're trying to research or purchase, and they engage with content for professional development, or what I'm going to call casual reading. So think about when you're creating content, what is the goal for that content? Right? Blog posts, huge SEO optimization machine. Blog posts are awesome for inbound links, awesome for keeping people up and engaged, right? So think about those as casual reading. And then think about other types of content for research. And we're going to dig into this a little bit deeper. So the purpose of research are people they're trying to solve a problem. They're trying to educate themselves. And so when they go online and start gathering this information, 77% of them say they want different content at each stage, right? So remember we talked about stage 1, 2, and 3? Well, each one of those stages, they want something completely different. We're going to talk about what those are in just a second. Let me define batch. And batch is that B concept, that you're going to download a lot of different things at one time. The majority of the room just agreed on this. Now, I'm a big fan of odds. I hate Vegas and I hate playing games, but I love statistics and I love odds. Because if you can tip the odds in your favor, that means more times than not you're going to win. It's pretty simple, right? It's easy math. Right? So batch research. Let's see how we play the odds in this. The new best practice is called boxing out. Now I'm going to walk you through. This is like a mathematical proof, but I think you can follow along. It's not that hard. Proof is really too big of a word. It's not that bad. All right, so first, your content, right? What we see is a circle. This is going to be the amount of content that person engages with in a batch research cycle. Right? So when they go online, if you think about this, the number and the amount of pieces you're going to download is not important. What's important is that you're going to do all this at the exact same time. Right? So think about your research behavior. You're just going on and downloading a lot of documents, and then you're logging offline. If our goal is to become the thought leader, our goal should be to get as many pieces of our content in their hands during that research stage. Right? So how do we do that? It's a really easy way. Right? So there's the threshold. It's a sales concept of yes. So anyone used to be a salesperson? I was. All right. I'm going to ask you real quick. If someone says yes once, they are more likely to say yes. There you go. It's really easy. All right. So if someone just filled out your form, they just gave you a yes. So now they're more likely to give you another yes. Now if you have your content mapped appropriately, you know you just wrote a stage 2 piece of content, and they just downloaded a stage 2 piece of content. Right? So I think you guys might get where I'm going with this. So if they just downloaded a stage 2 piece of content, I know they're in stage 2. I know they said yes, so they're more likely to say yes again. What if I have that form instantly flip and offer them another piece of stage 2 content and a piece of stage 3 content? I offer stage 2 because they might want to research more about the stage they're in. I offer them stage 3 so they can move themselves ahead if they want to. Right? I shouldn't assume that they just want to stay in stage 2. Now what happens? I increase the odds of them downloading more of my documents. And what does that do? That boxes out my competition. Anybody ever play basketball? That's where I got the term box out. All right, so you're boxing out your competition by having a larger share of that threshold, a larger share of that pie. And that's going to get you into that thought leadership position. But it's by understanding your content needs to be mapped to a specific stage, and then you need to have a call to action immediately after that, prompting them to increase with more or engage with more content. All right, second, understanding research and the content support your life cycle. So here's where we get a little bit more granular. Let's talk about what type of content at each stage we should have. So if we look across the top, this is the person's mindset in each stage. And I'll walk you through left to right. And on the bottom, you see the type of content that we should have in each stage. So stage one, the person has no need. It's unidentified need. This is that person searching for segmentation. She does not have a need for marketing automation. She doesn't even know what marketing automation is yet. But she has a pain, she just hasn't quantified it yet. She hasn't really figured it out, right? So when someone's in this research mode, they really want to know about them. They want to help solve their problem. They don't want to know about exact target. They don't want to know about part up. They want to know what is their problem and how to solve it. So the content needs to be about them. You need to write content about them in ways that they can help. Stage two is they felt the pain, but they don't have budget, authority, needs, or timeline. Right? So this is going to be the person, and let's all remember that B2B, raise your hand if you're B2B in here. All right, I think we'll all agree that not one person is the entire purchasing department of an organization. It's usually multiple people, right? So one person might be your champion. One person might say, hey, I want to get marketing automation. But they've got to then get everybody else on board. So they might not have bandwidth. They might not have the authority, the need, the timeline. So what kind of content can we put in their hands? Well, social proof. How can we empower them to show other people in their organization, here's how other people have solved this, here's how we as an organization can be better, right? So now it's about social proof, showing them how other people can do this and have done this. And then finally, once they get the ban, now this is when they care about you. This is when they're going to sit down and start evaluating vendors. They're going to say, hey, let's start setting up demonstrations. This is before they get passed over to sales if we're using an automated lead system where we're going to pass over at a certain time, right? So now they finally get that, and it's about you, and that's what they want at that stage. Think about this. When you're early in your research stage, you don't want to see comparisons of companies. You don't want to see the sheets on how many employees that person has. You really don't care. It's all about you at that stage. Right? So make sure your content maps to that and you're giving the consumers what they'd like. Right? So now let's talk about casual reading. This is more so on how do people engage with content on a daily basis. This is usually the content you're writing on a daily basis, your blog posts, any type of press releases, anything that you're putting out for SEO specifically is going to be casual reading. And your goal is twofold. One is to stay in front of people over a long period of time so that you're always relevant. And then two is to get that link love back and to be found on Google. So it's got a lot of different pieces and different aspects. So if you're single, right, you're looking for a single piece of content. You're just professional development. Think about all the reasons you read blog posts in the morning. It's usually professional development or what I call entertainment or infotainment. Most B2B people were infotainers. Right? We're entertaining through professional development, infotainment. Now, understand casual reading. So understand if you put a piece of content up, understand when somebody's going to engage with that so you can tailor your content a little bit more specifically. Here's another interesting piece about the length of content. So I asked everybody, said, well, how long should content be? 71% of people said it should be less than 5 pages. Right? Look at the statistic that I put in the middle. Like 1.7% said it should be more than 5 pages. So if you have content over 5 pages, you should probably shorten that down, right? Now, let's look at what that content probably had in it. That content probably had stage 1, stage 2, and stage 3 in it. You probably started off saying, hey, I want somebody to read this paper and be able to go from no clue to buying my product. It doesn't happen that way, guys. It just doesn't happen that way. You've never bought something from a B2B purchase by reading a document, right? So let's make sure our content is mapped to that stage-based process that these consumers adhere to. Now let's get into email nurturing, right? So how do we engage with the disruptive marketing? Email is disruptive marketing. 90% of people say that email is still their primary form of communication. I think it's a keynote we want to talk about. When you're doing nurturing programs, the nurturing programs need to have a specific goal. Like I said, you can't just have one program that says, I'm going to take somebody from downloading this document into a sales-ready lead. You can, but you can have a much better program if you adhere to how the people want to engage over a period of time. So your goals, if they're in a research mode, your goal should be to move them from stage to stage, right? If they're in casual reading, your goal is just to rapport. Stay in front of them over a long sales cycle. Understand the different programs and when to use them, when to add people and when to remove them from these different programs. So understanding life cycle nurturing is a really big, important new best practice. And creating campaigns with your goals in mind. Now we're going to break down these emails very specifically. Just like we talked about your content being mapped to stage, each one of these emails need to be mapped to a stage as well, and here's how you do it. First off, all emails need to be one-to-one. Raise your hand if you've ever written an HTML email to your friend, your mom, your dad, your brother. No one? One guy back there. You got really bored one night, didn't you? Yeah. So no one does it. We all use Outlook, which is rich text. Rich text. Gmail, Outlook, these are all rich text. Right? Here's an interesting fact. We disqualify before we qualify. Right? Think about how you manage your email inbox. When you get in the morning, this is what I do. You can agree or disagree. I sit there, I scan through, and I start clicking that checkbox in Gmail. Which ones can I delete? And then I hit delete. Once all those are gone, then I see what's left and I work down that list. Did anyone else do that?